blue, green.
Purple, blue, green.
Yep.
All right, we all set? We all set? All right, here we go. Wow, that was really good. Everybody just stopped. That was amazing. You can hear me then? All right, we're all set? Okay. This is the Common Council meeting to be held Wednesday, November 6, 2024 at 7 p.m. The meeting is called to order. Would you please call the roll?
Alderperson Juzwicki.
Present.
Alderperson Kastner.
Present.
Alderperson Akers.
Present.
Alderperson Sarian.
Present.
Alderperson Bailey.
Present.
Item B is opening prayer. We have Deacon Leggett here this evening.
Good evening. Let us pause for prayer and thank God for the gift of another day. Loving and gracious God, you are indeed the giver of all good things. We thank you tonight for your blessings and for a successful outcome to this meeting. We ask for your blessings on this common council as they continue to seek your guidance, wisdom, courage, and strength to make decisions that are good for all. May their personal faith guide them in the matters before them. Yesterday, we exercised our freedom to vote for the candidate of our choice. We are grateful for that freedom and all those before us who fought for that freedom. Guide those newly elected officials in ways that are best for our state and country. And in a special way today, we pray for peace in our world. And lastly, dear Lord, we ask for your blessings on all of us, that we be kept safe and well. We make this prayer to you, our Lord and our God. Amen.
Amen.
Item C is, would you please join me as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving along to item D, I'd entertain a motion to approve the October 15th, 2024.
Make a
Common
motion to approve those minutes.
Person Bailey, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Kastner, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Under Mayor's report this evening, first and foremost, we have an alderperson from the city of Milwaukee here this evening, I think. Is he still here? There he is. It's with great sadness. We went through the opening prayer earlier. Alderperson Ross took his life in Greenfield Park, which is in West Dallas, but it saddens me greatly that somebody, while he and I may not have agreed on everything, it saddens me greatly that someone in our position was in a position to take his life. I mean, it's just tragic. My thoughts and prayers go out to his family, his coworkers, you, alderperson, and the folks that you work with. All of us as public servants, especially after yesterday, I think it's pretty apparent elections are important, and people that do this go through a lot to be elected, whether you agree with them or you don't agree, all of those things. But I'm convinced that everybody that's sitting up here in our council and in the city of Milwaukee and in West Dallas and in Oak Creek and in Franklin and in Hills Corners and in Greendale and New Berlin, wherever you all may live, the people that do this aren't doing it for the money. They're doing it to make the world a better place. And my thoughts and prayers go to the alderperson. It's truly tragic. One of my friends, when I was going to law school a long time ago, this is 1987, I was a law clerk up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and one of the best associates that I ever knew, Mark, committed suicide. He was the one that led the softball games between law firms. He was the one that was always there to listen when you needed someone to listen to. He had 5 or 6, he was a Catholic guy. He had like 5, 6, 7 kids, right? And no one ever saw it coming. And my entire life, I remember Mark more than anything. So thoughts and prayers go there. Speaking of yesterday in the election, the chaplain mentioned it. There's some numbers, and I want to say some thanks to some people from yesterday. If you recall, 4 years ago, I think most of us were waiting 3 or 4 days later, and threats of this and threats of that. Y'all don't have any idea how many open records requests, how many requests to information that we get. You have no idea how many eyes are on this lady, Jennifer Gorgon, our city clerk, and her staff throughout this entire process. It is not an easy thing to do at all. Yesterday it went off without a hitch. I want to make sure that the 24, these are the people that helped, okay? 24 election workers helped with early absentee voting. There were 132 election workers on election day. These are all people that live in the community. Many of them are retired. Many of them are just trying to be civically minded. Many of them didn't recognize the amount of sheer training that they had to go through before the election, and training that was constantly changing and sometimes directionless. I want to thank the DPW crew who made sure you all don't realize that they have to measure to make sure there's clearance between this and that, and that there's so many stalls that are whatever, all of that stuff. The sheer amount of preparation that goes into making sure that the polling site is the way that it's supposed to be, pursuant to the specifications that are there and are changing and are being visited by people with tape measures to make sure everything is appropriate, so that potentially they could, whatever. The IT department, we have a wonderful IT department in the city. We have 4 employees that were spectacular. There wasn't a software glitch, hardware glitch, and if there was anything that went wrong, it was taken care of immediately. I'm told this year things worked out really, really well. I want to thank the police department. The police department didn't show itself, I don't think, with guns and riot gear at every polling place, but I wanted to make sure that everyone understood that the city was prepared in case something didn't go right, and I want to thank the police department for that. I want to thank all of the staff so the clerk's office is consumed with the election for a very long period of time, both before and after the election. I'm going to go through the budget later during the budget hearing. There isn't a staff of like 50 people in there that, oh, okay, let's just do the election and we'll get to the licensing and we'll get to the this and we'll get to the that. I want to thank everybody else that was in this building that helped make up the manpower requirements that were required. As far as the election itself, there are approximately 22,000 registered voters in the city of Greenfield. During the early voting and with absentee ballots, there were 12,000 early voters and absentee ballots that had to be processed the day of the election. They couldn't be processed ahead of time. There were also approximately 10,000 folks that voted on the day of the election. If you add 10 and 12,000 together, pretty much everybody that was eligible to vote in the city of Greenfield voted. And there wasn't a problem, and it sounds like we got our numbers to the county before Franklin, Oak Creek, West Dallas, so good job, Jennifer. Okay. Some of you...
Before Milwaukee, too.
Huh?
Before Milwaukee.
Well, Milwaukee's got it a little bit, yet
They couldn't lock boxes or something, I don't know.
There's an alderperson from Milwaukee here. I'm not going to criticize. I mean, that's a much bigger place with much bigger stuff going on.
More people.
There's a lot more people.
Working.
Huh?
More people working.
There were a lot more people working, I would imagine. Right?
Oh.
Okay. What else did I want to say? Just under Mayor's report quickly with regard to the turf skateboard park. The 5 original bowls have been recreated. The park is still not open. There's still work to be done. But the folks that are keeping an eye on the skateboard park, the 5 original bowls from the 80s have been recreated by Grindline. They're still not done as far as decks and stuff go. There's probably 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, probably through Thanksgiving, of work that needs to be done on the site still. And then there's work that needs to be done after that. We're planning to have a grand opening in spring, a big event. Probably not a big event like the one that was at Conkle Park this summer, not that kind of event, but so I wanted to keep you all apprised of that. Just one final thing on the selection. This is just a mayor who's been doing this for almost 20 years now. I mean, I've been through presidential elections. I'm just really glad it's over. I really hope, and I say this, I think every 4 years, or have for the last 5 or 6, 4 years, 24, 20, 16, 12, 8 years ago. Can't we all just get along? It breaks my heart just in the neighborhood that I live in, that there are folks with, Trump signs next to Harris signs, and the folks aren't talking to each other, for God's sakes, right? I'm not sure that any founding father, I don't think Ronald Reagan or Dwight Eisenhower or John Kennedy or Richard Nixon or Jimmy Carter or Bill Clinton, I don't think anybody would be happy that neighbors aren't talking to each other and that we're taking all this stuff too personal. The point I think I'm trying to make is put down the damn phones and get off the social media and start being real people again, because the sheer amount of chaos that's created for all of us, just because everything's just in time and we can all just complain anonymously, or we've lost something here that we have to get back. I hope that the new former president remembers that. I would have said the same thing if the other one had won, right? This is not the time. Enough. We're all getting sick and tired of it. I am. And if you're not, that's cool. I am. All right. Aldermanic reports this evening. Are there any?
I'm just glad there's no more political ads.
I am glad that there are no. I am told that in the Donovan Bird race, if the numbers that were told to me are true, they spent millions of dollars on a legislative race. I wish they would spend millions of dollars when they get there on police and firefighters and DPWs and letting us have budgets where we're not skimping and scraping every year, while they're saying that we're spending money foolishly. And when we get to the budget later, we can get into that a little bit. The final thing I wanted to do is we signed a proclamation earlier this morning for John, or a certificate of appreciation for John Name. John Name was a firefighter in our fire department, and 20 years ago, I don't even remember when this was, on this 5th day of April 2008, I read this proclamation, and this relates to Johnny Name. This was 20 years ago. Whereas the vitality of our nation, state, and city depends on how safe we keep our homes, neighborhoods, and communities, and whereas those who choose to pursue careers in and professionally practice the science of and art of firefighting and emergency medical services contribute greatly to society's well-being, and whereas John Name began his full-time employment with the city of Greenfield as a firefighter on January 6, 1975, was promoted as paramedic in September 1987, paramedic officer in 1994, and then lieutenant on February 23, 2004. And whereas in addition to all the other duties, John has responded to a large number of fires and rescue calls and has assisted in the life rescue and overall protection of the residents of the city of Greenfield. He has also been active in the union and has served as union secretary from 1979 to 1982 and union vice president in 1993. Whereas on January 6, 2006, John Name retired, and I named April 9th, 2006 as John Name Day. John Name, after he retired, came back to the city of Greenfield in a part-time role non-union role, I think it is, right? And has been an inspector for the city for the last 20 years. And there aren't many people that can say that they've worked for the same employer for 50 years. John Name, on behalf of all of us, and he's also a city resident, deserves a round of applause. And as a city employee, I will be going and buying him a McDonald's gift certificate because the city, I'm just kidding, I'm not.
That's all we can afford.
He doesn't eat at McDonald's anyways, but John Name, I mean, there should be more people like John, right? John talks more than I do. Maybe he'll run for mayor. Okay, citizen commentary, is there any this evening? I have Peter here, you're here for the laundromat, I think, right? Peter, you signed up for citizen commentary. Okay, so we're gonna move along to public hearings. The first one is public hearing number I-1. Public hearing on a special use permit for Rejuvenate MKE, a proposed medical spa to be located at 8575 West Forest Home, Suite 40. This is to approve the resolution for the special use permit as well as approve the site plan.
All right, thank you. So, yeah, Rejuvenate MKE will be is proposing to go into the Forest Green Executive Center on Forest Home Avenue. The property is currently zoned PUD, which does require a special use permit for a medical spa. They're proposing 4 full-time employees and hours of operation from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Sundays, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Mondays through Fridays, and 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturdays. The total parking requirement for the building is 149 spaces. There are 154 provided. Plan Commission recommended approval for this on September 10th, and we have not received any letters of support or objection.
Okay, Catherine Majinski is here on behalf of the applicant. She doesn't have to speak. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for, against, or informational purposes concerning this item? Is there anyone that would like to speak for, against, or informational purposes concerning this item? Before the item is closed, I do note that the notice that went out referred to the spa as 3.6 acres. It's one suite, it's Suite 40, and the special use attaches to that office. Okay, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing if there's no one that would like to speak.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Alderperson Akers, is there a second? Second by Alderperson Bailey, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Does the council wish to take any action with regard to approving this resolution of a special use permit?
I'll make
and
a motion to
site plan
approve the resolution as presented.
and the special use plan review?
Can we do them together?
We can do them together, I think.
Yes.
By
included
Alderperson
A and B.
Kastner, is there a second?
Second.
By Drzwicki, all would you call?
Alderperson Jizwicki,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Akers,
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian,
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Okay, item 2 is, I2 is a public hearing on a special use permit for Flash Laundromat, a proposed laundromat business located at 4515 West Forest Home Avenue, submitted by Ken Cidello. This would be to approve the resolution for the special use permit as well as the site plan review.
All right, thank you. So Flash Laundromat will occupy all 7,000 square feet of the commercial building located at 4515 West Forest Home Avenue. The property is zoned C2, which does require a special use for a laundromat, which requires a public hearing. Hours of operation will be 24 hours daily. And for parking requirement, the building requires 32 spaces. 45 stalls will be provided. It had previously gone to Plan Commission in May of 2023 and had since been approved on October 8th of this year. From our site review, the site is currently in disrepair. We've found some other issues with the dumpster and the parking lot, the area between the sidewalk and Forest Home Avenue, but we have been in contact with the property owner to resolve these issues. And we have received one letter for informational purposes so far.
Okay,
And, yeah, and we have some additional site plans as well. But we can keep that for the, or go to the public hearing probably if you,
so we're, kind of in the public hearing right now.
Right.
The, Luke is a superhero. I don't know if you saw Luke Cage on Netflix. That, no. Luke just started with the city of Greenfield in the planning. This is your first time doing this, isn't it? Sort of, right? So we'll make sure that everything's cool. Some of you out there, if you wanted to register for or against informational purposes for the public hearing, it's the blue sheets that are in front. Do you have the site stuff? Can you go through that?
Yep. All right, so we have the site plan here with parking over, I don't know if it shows the cursor, on the top side for the full site, and then the lower one here is a detail of the front parking lot. We have the floor plan, which shows where all the laundry machines will go, as well as storage and storage, restrooms, and then an additional area that would be like a kind of childcare educational type area over on the front corner over where those tables and chairs are. And then proposed elevations of what changes are being proposed for the building.
Did we have a picture of what the new, there's another example, I think, in another community. Is that one in here anywhere or not?
How we can get that up.
If you could do that, that'd be great. While we're waiting for that, there were some folks that registered in favor but not speaking. It's Ada Saez, hopefully I pronounced that properly, 3102 South 43rd Street, and Maria Delez, hopefully I pronounced that properly, 3102 South 43rd Street. There's two folks that have registered and speak against. The first is Kurt Hart at 4454 West Midland, who I'll bring up first, and then Barb Schulman at 4548 West Midland. Just a couple things before we get started. There's been discussions, I think, emails going on between the alderperson in Milwaukee who represents the people immediately adjacent to this building, and Alderperson Drzwicki, who represents this building and the neighbor and your neighbors across the street, essentially in Greenfield, right? Those discussions kind of revolved around two things, and this is for consideration during the public hearing, and we'll get into the comments that everyone has. But a synopsis of them seems to be, from what I can tell, twofold. The first was a concern about the 24-hour operation. Another alderperson approached me about it. You know, should it be 24 hours? And can we try it for 24 hours and revisit it in a year? And if it's not working, or if there is a problem that becomes apparent, can we revisit it at that time? I think the council has within its jurisdiction and control the ability to define the special use as with regard to hours of operation in time increments, subject to review by the Common Council. I think that would be appropriate, and you could do that. The second thing relates to, you know, and I, excuse me, I went out there today and I looked at the condition of this property, but also the condition of the property to the north. And then I went down the alley and I saw the fences by Meons and right, in the grass area. One of the biggest criticisms, I think, of this project is that cars cut through this parking lot to get to the alley. I think it's pretty clear, just based on what happened south along this alley, where the fences for the other 24-hour operations were, the gas station, and I can't remember was it a restaurant? I'm sorry, I think it's a restaurant, right? That kind of needs to continue along this. One of the issues with that is that the property immediately north of this is in the city of Milwaukee. It's a different parcel, and it's in pretty bad shape too. But if you don't start moving along, there's been a lot of discussion going on between you folks, because I know that you both want to make sure that this is done properly. That's something that, the council should consider. So, you got?
Yeah, I have couple things with the fence. If they do put one up, we took a look kind of at that back property line along the alley. So if they were to put up a fence, the fence would only be able to extend off the kind of back side of the building, since there isn't really much space between the back of the building and the property line.
Yeah.
And from there, it would only be able to go on the side. Since Plan Commission had already gone through and recommended conditions without the fence, we would need to bring this back to Plan Commission and Common Council for.
So the planning commission is a recommending body, and the common council can.
I think we can tweak it,
adjust
Mike.
and recommend changes to any recommendation made by the planning commission, so wouldn't have to go back to
Okay.
the planning commission. I wish there was some way.
Because
to
there is the other part with that is having the fence there could change the parking lot layout, which is our bigger concern with that, which could
the common
alter.
council could provide you with the authority to make those ministerial changes to
Okay.
the parking lot, consistent with their desires, right?
Yep.
I myself would like to see a fence along that back property line, including the east or western line going up to the other building, so you don't have cross traffic there either.
I don't know, is there a way I can send you a picture that you can put up there? So I took a picture on my phone today, and I'm sorry that I didn't get this to you, we were it's been a busy day. Can I send you one to your email?
Yeah, sure.
Is it in there?
I want to just show you luke@marvel.com. No, what is it? Luke, I don't have your email. Do you have? Sorry to do this. This isn't usually the way to conduct a public hearing, to be honest with you.
Just thinking, actually.
But
Productive, though, hopefully.
it's productive, but it's also was sort of done a day or two right before the public hearing, so it was still a work in progress. But, so I just sent you an email, I don't know if, on your email. So with that being said, there's two folks that have registered to speak against. I would call Kurt Hart first. Does that sound good? I'm sorry, yes, and then there was Peter Brigelis who sent, yes, I should have done that. So you're speaking on behalf of the two folks, or just you? Oh, okay.
Good. Thank you, Council, Mr. Mayor. My name is Peter Brigelis. I'm the District 11 Alder for the Southwest side of Milwaukee. My district is north, south, east, and west of this property. I had a concern about the notice for public hearing. The address was listed incorrectly initially. Once that was brought to the clerk's attention, it was corrected, but I want to confirm that the corrected public hearing notice was mailed out to the same people 400 feet from the subject property.
I think the answer to that is yes.
Just want to confirm that. Thank you. I received one written objection from a constituent, Megan Higbee, who lives on Midland. Can that be added to the record?
And absolutely.
So that is communication in opposition of this. The address that you provided for the two people that registered in support, that 3201?
The two people that registered were 3102 South 43rd Street.
3102.
3102
Thank you
South
very much.
43rd Street.
I thought it was the church across the street. I appreciate someone making an investment in the neighborhood. We need this kind of business. We need this business. You guys have been trying to develop that property for a long time. I think it's going to be an asset, a net asset to the neighborhood. However, a 24-hour business in a neighborhood with homes and families and kids and people that go to work in the morning isn't appropriate. There are no other 24-hour businesses nearby. The closest in Milwaukee is on 27th Street. That's the Denny's. There's another gas station on 84th Street. The neighbors adjacent to this property across the alley will have a disparate impact from this business if it's allowed to operate 24 hours a day. I would urge you not to do that because of concerns from that from those extended hours. What happens when something's open 24 hours? Well, anybody can come and go as they please. The business won't be staffed by anyone who's present or on site. The building by design, unless all of the front street-facing windows are replaced and some of the layouts and the taller washing machines are changed, you can't see into the business at night. So there'd be hiding places where bad things could happen. There are a number of bars nearby. They close at midnight or 2 o'clock, like they should. But my concern is that there may be some stragglers or people that are wandering around who can't stay on their bar stool anymore that'll be looking for somewhere warm to hang out or somewhere to go do things that they that we wouldn't like to see happen. The business, I think, is a great fit for the neighborhood, for the property, but access from the alley needs to be there needs to be some consideration there. There needs to be some consideration for the extended hours. And in terms of lighting, I saw in the plan review that lighting would not pass the property line, but there's an issue about lighting in that alley in general. There aren't utilities that can give a proper street light. And as long as, if there is a plan for lighting, I would ask that the lighting be able to go into the alley, not on the opposing property lines, but cover parts of the alley and not stay at the property line like your code requires. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hart, did you want to speak? Okay. Barb Schulman, 4548 Midland?
Are we sure about that address?
4548 West Midland
I
Drive.
just, be careful.
I'm Barb Schuman. I live at 4548 West Midland Drive in Greenfield, and I've been a resident in that home for the last 40-some years.
Open. The door has to stay open. The door has to stay open.
Yeah.
I know.
They're just kids.
Open meetings laws, doors have to stay open. That's
Dur-
okay. It's okay.
During this time of that I've lived in that neighborhood, which is a single-family, non-rental residential area, I have spoken here when we had the Meon gas station issue, when they wanted to be open for 24 hours, and we got those regulated back to 5 in the morning to midnight. And so that was one thing. And we just recently talked about the Mexican restaurant that wanted 2 o'clock closing, and we got that settled, I think, to 11. So I'm not adverse to having this, what looks to be a very nice new establishment in the gateway to the Greenfield area. And from my studies of the information that I got from the Milwaukee alderman, it appears that the pattern that they use, the design and so forth, is pretty much like some of their other properties. What I am adverse to is the 24-hour situation, which is, I think, totally out of character for the neighborhood. This particular company has another a laundromat facility on 60th and Forest Home, which is the city of Milwaukee. It's in that southwest shopping center that has the auto zone and the fitness center and so forth. And they are only open until from 5 in the morning until 12 at night, and they are closed. Now, that particular facility does not back up to a residential area whatsoever. And so I've used that as an example of which I think we could probably accept in our area, in our neighborhood, to extend our hours from 5 in the morning until 10 or 12 at night. I did do the research on what kind of activity goes on in these facilities during the day and during the open hours. And what I did find was that there's very minimal activity or business or laundry services that occur during the midnight hours. And so I don't think that it would even be necessary for them to be open. And it certainly isn't something that my neighborhood is interested in having as a 24-hour facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hurt?
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. We are glad that a business is looking to occupy the old senior center building on West Forest Home and 45th Street. We are not opposed to the laundromat that wants to come in, but we are opposed to the hours of operation open 24/7. This is a residential area with small children. We do have concerns regarding cleanliness of the building inside and out, monitoring or surveillance, and vandalism. Who will take care of this if there is no person on site 24/7? There is graffiti up and down the alley right now. There are complaints online from other locations belonging to this company citing incidents of vandalism and loitering, especially students that should be in school. What is going to happen with the fence that was to be put up along the entire backside? I know you talked about that already, and we're wondering if it is going to be going from Conquistador all the way down to Knights Popcorn. I know that Knights is part of Milwaukee, and the Access Mobility, I believe, is part of Milwaukee too. But if that fence could go from El Conquistador to the other side, east side of the building of where the laundromat is going, that would be wonderful. When Maranatha Church wanted to come in, they were given until 2025 to put up the fence so the alley would not be a throughway. This could help deter non-patrons from coming into the neighborhood. I do have 10 businesses in the area that are open to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 midnight. No business is open 24/7 in and around the area. Clean Laundry on Miller Parkway and Premium Laundry on 91st Street are open 24/7. Those are the only two. Then the other laundromats, Laundry Room Coin Laundry on Morgan, the new Flash laundromat on Forest Home and 60th, Layton Laundromat, I have, and then Edgerton Plaza. I have them open until 10 o'clock. That's showed on websites. And Family Pride Laundromat on Schlinger on 92nd is open until 6. Other businesses in and around the area, Meehan's gas station open until midnight, Knight's Popcorn until 5 or 6, Calibre's until 11, Dollar Tree 8 or 9 o'clock, George Webb open until 10, Brass Key until 9, D. Stefano's until 10, Barber's until 5 or 6, and the Tax Center until 7, Emerald Jewelry until 6. We, the residents, would like to see the laundromat hours be consistent with the other businesses around the area, meaning not 24/7. We thank you for your time and consideration to this. Thank you.
So the applicant is here this evening, I think. Did I see him somewhere? Are you, oh, there, sorry. Did you want to address some of the issues that they're? Sure. I think
Hello, good evening.
hours, fence,
What's that?
hours, fence, manning.
Yeah. So, Ken Sadello. My address is 5552 South 108th Street in Hales Corners. The stigma of laundromats has been spoiled by what we all know many laundromats have always been. We have 7 successful 24-hour laundromats currently. One in Wauwatosa that's been there for about 60 years. I've owned it for 30 and operated it. 2 in West Dallas that are 24 hours on 89th and Beecher and 91st in Oklahoma. 1 in Cudahy that I started 35 years ago, and I still own it to this day. 1 in Whitewater, and our newest one is a Flash Waukesha, which is the identical replica of this building to the T. It's the exact same format, size, layout, everything. So we have a really good experience with 24-hour laundromats, and it's for the working people. It's for your constituents. It's for the second and third shift workers. It's for the nurses. It's for busy families with kids that want to do their laundry after their kids go to bed. It's for bartenders when they get off of work and they're still wide awake. It's for laundry emergencies, which happens with different things, with children's clothing and whatnot. We have senior citizens that love to come at 2, 3 in the morning. They're up that early. There's not much to do at home yet, and they love to come to a laundromat and do their laundry. And not all our customers are without washers and dryers. A lot of them will either bring all their big quilts and all their big bedding once or twice a week. I have some of my own employees that go to our laundromats because they have washers and dryers at home, but they need, they want a big wash machine. And that's the format that a lot of these laundromats are now, is they have a lot more bigger machines. It's not the smaller machines like you'd have at home. Some people get behind in laundry and they want to bring 8 loads at one time because they don't want to spend the whole day doing it, and they can get in and out in an hour and a half. They can put 8 loads in, 8 loads out, fold it, and they're done, and they still have the rest of the day to themselves. So there's a lot of people that need the laundromats. People come back from vacation, they come back from hunting, they come back from camping, and they just want to go in and do their laundry. And sometimes that may mean it's at midnight. And we have basically 3 lines of defense. We have a full-time security guy that's employed that is randomly going to all the locations consistently during all business hours. We have a security company through the night called Securitas that goes through and photographs, takes 5 to 10 photos of all the outside, the dumpster enclosure, the lighting, the signs, the entrances. Inside they take pictures, and it's all uploaded and sent to us on the spot while they're there. They're doing that consistently through the night. And the biggest advancement we've done is we've have very high quality, I'd call it casino quality, face recognition cameras. So if we have a bad actor that comes in there and we know it, we'll put his face, we get an instant notification if he walks in. I mean, before he's even in the building. When he's walking up, those cameras catch him and they send it to us. And we can respond immediately. Laundromats today are a massive investment. They're huge. And we don't want problems. We have to protect our investment. We have to protect our reputation. With the way Google reviews happen, you're traumatized if you have bad actors haunting the place. So we're very diligent about it. I've done this for over 35 years. And the one on 60th and Forest Home, we took over just over a year and a half ago. That was traumatized for probably 5 to 10 years by Hamilton High School kids. And the operator of that laundromat was an out-of-state California company, and they didn't watch it. They didn't take care of it. We came in, and we knew that was a problem. We met with Captain Eric Pfeiffer of District 6. He had cops there on overtime, 2 cops sitting in a car every single day, Monday through Friday, from like school hours from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., coming out of his budget because they couldn't stop those kids coming in. The alderperson at the time for that District 11 was, we formed a public safety meeting. We had monthly public safety meetings called the Grove Business Block Watch. We attended it. We hired, the day we took that laundromat over, we knew we were putting a big investment in. We hired a full-time security guy for the day hours, a 2-person team, and immediately eradicated the problem. They won't even come into the parking lot now. And they were traumatizing other tenants in the building. They were starting fires in that laundromat. We put our equipment in, we remodeled it, and we have not had one problem since then. I reached out to that captain. He has since been transferred to a different district, so he couldn't get me a letter of to validate that, but, and I believe the alderman that was in there, we met every month till we got that problem under control. And the landlord was very happy with us. We don't own that shopping center. And all the other tenants, which they were feeling the presence of the high school kids, which were bullying everybody. So we know how to react to it. We have to react to it. I have a letter here that was signed by Daniel Rote. He's an alderperson in West Dallas, validating that Flash Laundromat owns and operates two 24-hour locations within my jurisdiction. Both locations are neighboring single-family residents. I have never had a complaint against the laundromats from either of those neighboring homes. Flash Laundromats have done exemplary members of the community throughout their tenure in the city. As an alderman, I can confidently say, with the addition to these businesses to the community, there's a level of stability and safety provided that other businesses don't offer. Upon purchasing of both of these properties, extensive renovations and upgrades, both inside and outside, have been completed and immediately added value to nearby homes. The one we just did in Waukesha, which is it had been probably 10 different restaurants. It was always boarded up. It was dilapidated when we took it over from the last restaurant, and it was never successful. Waukesha Freeman did a big article on it and said this has been like, I think it was like 11. Once a laundromat goes in there, it usually is a laundromat for a long time. It's a big capital investment for all the infrastructure, and it's very stable when it's operated correctly. So it adds value, it adds stability, and it's a great repurpose of an older building that is, it doesn't deserve to get tore down. It's in great shape, and it's a great repurpose of the building.
The fence,
Cameras.
the cut through to the alley,
For the fencing?
yeah.
Yeah, that would be, it would choke the parking in a different way. I talked to Luke today, and he checked with the city. He was told that the city of Greenfield, even though that alley is half Milwaukee's and half Greenfield, is plowed by Greenfield up to the Milwaukee property line. And with us, accessing the back of the building, it would be a lot easier for us to do a really good job of plowing and maintaining that if there was not a fence there. Secondly, with a fence, a lot of times it gets hit either from the snow or people backing into it. So it becomes a challenge. It's wanting to be reasonable. It's something that we're predicting problems before they've happened. I'd rather live with the condition that if there's issues, we want to resolve them. We need happy neighbors. They may be our customers. They're going to be our advocate. They may call us if they see some suspicious activity. It's a win-win, but it's to predict problems that aren't there yet is tough to deal with. But, or maybe a curb or something, a large curb that nobody could drive over.
I mean, and I won't speak for Andrew at the public hearing. I'm just trying to synthesize the access, getting through there was an issue with the folks cutting through, but it was also the visibility. So does that seem like an accurate statement?
Generally, yes. Ken, briefly, in general, in Greenfield, when we have single-family, when we have single-family residences or we have businesses that are backing up to them, we have a smaller hospital on 76th Street that replaced what was Barnes & Noble at one point. We have residentials that have issues with there not being a fence. At the end of the day, I'm not trying to tell you that you can't do what you want to do, but I'm trying to balance the folks in Milwaukee that live directly behind this property, and they more or less want to have some sort of division. Now, I understand you don't own the entire space when this property is being purchased, which means there's essentially going to be some sort of hole between the fence lines until someone else either purchases or develops.
Where is it? Oh, on the east, the north?
Yes, northeast, more or less. The adjacent, it's just blacktop at the moment.
How old is this fence that's in the picture? 30 years? 20?
Yeah, I can't,
It started off as a shadow wooden fence.
yeah.
But then they had to take it down and put up this one and make sure that it was 85% blockage.
For the street
Yes.
lights coming directly into our windows.
But is the question, I mean, where would the fence be proposed? I mean, that one's set back
So I just-
from the property line where this particular property,
So I'm
the
get-
building itself is directly on the alley.
I just sent 2 pictures to him on the south side and the north side of the building, so I'm guessing the fence wouldn't go along the back of the building. It would probably have to come into, be perpendicular with the building at some point. So that's not a great picture. That's the south side of the building. So I'm guessing the fence would probably somewhere be near that rain gutter, and there would probably be grass or something there consistent with the other one going southward. And then there's another picture. Did you get the other picture? Nope, you didn't. Here it comes. Sorry.
Wouldn't that be a large challenge, though, to plow that and make that alley, which already appears very narrow, to be substantially narrower as snowbanks form in
I think
Wisconsin?
it's more
winters?
challenging filling a parking lot with snow in the alley than it would be to shovel or to push the snow onto the grass or whatever is there next to it. This is the other side. This is the other side of the building. So the fence could go along the edge of the building. It could creep up perpendicular to the building. You could still have access from the back as required. But essentially.
Could the fence go on the lot line per se, or whatever the?
It could, so I think everyone is interested in making sure that the fence is consistent with what other fences are along the alleyway, right? I don't know if you can, every time I see a picture now, I kind of want to go like this. Can you see it down the alley? But,
Can I just say, I live with an alley in the city of Greenfield that is plowed by the city, and we have DPW back there. What they do when they plow our alleys, and we've had some tremendous snowfalls where we have no place for that to go, the city comes in with equipment, scoops up our snow, and then usually deposits it across the street at Conkle Park. But they do that in the city of Greenfield for our alleys. When it gets to the point where you can't get a car through anymore, DPW does come through and scoop up that snow.
It's my understanding.
one of the problems that we have with this location, talking to them a little bit, is that your entire parking lot follows the alley. So when we're clearing out the alley, we're actually putting it in your parking lot, and we're blocking traffic. So if there wasn't any, and we don't do that, we try not to do that.
Yeah. It sounds like the plow truck may even be turning around in the parking lot because they're not supposedly plowing all the way through.
Lieutenant of Public Works here tonight, just like all of the department heads, so we could probably ask that.
Yeah,
And
that they don't
But the
plow.
reality is that trying to block off the commercial area from the residential area, even with fence like this, is probably better because it keeps people from migrating between the neighborhoods and the businesses.
Yeah.
And it prevents the access through the, I guess that's what we're trying to get. And we can't engage in, but I'll just pretend that you're still talking, okay?
With the plowing situation, the bingo or the senior center had their own professional people come in to do that. When Greenfield comes through to plow the alley in the wintertime, they don't plow towards the fence, they plow us in.
Yeah,
And it goes all the way down the alley. The other thing is that when we were talking about last year with Maranatha coming in, you gave them until 2025 to put the fence up. We were under the impression that there was a city ordinance for any new business coming in that they had to put up a fence.
And he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think any commercial property that's adjacent to a residential property requires a fence. In this circumstance, it's not adjacent to you, they're adjacent to an alley. So it's kind of one of those gray area kinds of things. The reality is, putting a fence there, based on our discussions, is really important. Meehan's originally was 24 hours, weren't they, a long time ago, and then they decided, I'm pretty sure
I think they were.
they were, and then they came back and they changed it,
Are the gas pumps still 24/7?
the gas.
I've been there 43 years, right behind me, and they've never been 24 hours.
They have 24-hour pumps though, right?
They might be the pumps, but the lights are off and the store is closed.
So, I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
The reality is, if there was a place to put snow, and if the fence was further back, so when they did plow, they didn't destroy your fence,
Yeah.
I mean, it would just really solve.
Yeah. Do you know, and this may be a more technical question, I know we've done some dumpster enclosures in the city of Greenfield, and it's chain link fence, which I think that picture is depicting with the PVC slats in it, is not allowed.
For dumpster, so that fence isn't allowed either, but there was a building inspector here a while back who placed us in a position of saying, well, you know, it's good enough. That's the kind, so we had required wood board-on-board fencing in between residences and properties because this fence doesn't prevent the light and the stuff from getting through. You can see through this fence, you can see through it in this picture. In this situation, across the alley are basically garages. I'm not sure how much is being blocked, and anything is probably better than nothing, and it seems like the access and getting through the neighborhood is probably more important, but I'm sure a wood fence would be nice too. These are more graffiti resistant, I think, as
They're
I
more
walk.
durable, they hold up and they last. A chain link fence is a lot more durable and long lasting with all the exposure to
So
what's going on.
I wouldn't,
I wouldn't object to it. There's a condo project next to a commercial project that has a chain link fence, very similar to this on Highway 100, that is adequate for that residential property that's not next to an alley either, abuts the homes.
They make like 10 different colors too for the slats. You can do all one color, you can do some light, you know, a light brown, dark brown, light brown. You can make it look nice or just monotone, but it's a PVC slat, so that's very durable. They're replaceable. But
I think that having consistency along the alleyway would be a good thing, but I don't make
That I would be in agreement in that. Under the assumption, Ken, that you'd be open to doing that, where reasonable with that type of fencing that we have here up on the screen
Yeah.
at the moment. If that's
Yeah.
reasonable to
Yeah.
you,
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
That'll
Aside
keep
from the other
the
things.
business separate from the alley.
Yeah.
It adds challenge to parking and in and out for people coming and going, not using the alley, but just getting in and out of the spots that go up towards the fence. But we can accommodate that.
Can you go to the other one too? Back to the other pictures? The one on the east side? This one? So this one creates a little bit of a challenge because of the grade change, it looks like, right? But if the fence was up further and you cut, you cut it out, you cut out the asphalt and then put grass in, right?
Yeah.
That would probably work really well.
Yeah, we'll want to
It
keep
would
it
only
as,
be up to the property line, it wouldn't be for the popcorn place, and it wouldn't be for the other stuff. Right? But when Peter, or Alderperson, when he starts working on his side, then, there's a model to follow that treats the Milwaukee neighbors better. Just kidding. All right.
and we're replacing the parking lot, as we all know, so that eyesore will be,
So it's got to come out anyways.
Yeah.
It could be cheaper
no.
per square foot.
I'd like to still keep the fence as close to the alley as possible, because we need parking. Unfortunately, a laundromat business doesn't necessarily always just have a steady flow of customers. It has some peaks, and Saturday mornings it gets busy, and then they clear out, and then it's steady after that. But you like to have, the success of a laundromat is having a decent parking lot.
Those are your issues, right?
Yes.
Are there any other things that you wanted to bring up? There were a couple title issues or something that,
Yeah, I don't know.
so at the planning commission, apparently in the old days, there was a cross easement for the building to the south, where they had access through your parking lot, but it went away.
There was never any easement on the record of this property.
Okay, the city was requiring an easement, the city
Well,
was
that was,
requiring.
but we talked about that at the last meeting.
So, I mean, just to be clear in the minutes that there is no requirement,
There is no requirement.
and
to
we're
provide-
not requiring that. I
I
think
would
that
like to
it
see a fence along that property, between the two.
wouldn't be a bad idea, actually.
Wouldn't actually. And then
Just
they'd
saying.
have access from the alley.
But,
Well, and I'm not opposed to being a good neighbor, so it's, if they need to,
okay.
you know, we'll work that out, but.
Kind of defeats the purpose of controlling the traffic through, though.
Somewhere
Oh, from
along the
that
line-
respect, yeah, you're right.
Somewhere along the line too, I heard that there was a special use for this
Correct.
property,
That we-
and that it may be showing up in the title insurance or something.
Correct. I
So,
have that resolution.
and special uses after a year expire automatically, but that you might want the title insurance to reflect that the special uses that were previously attached to the property are no longer effective.
Correct.
So the minute should reflect that any special use that had been attached to this property, and the minutes should be probably pretty good, and the city can probably provide something in the special use agreement that which you would want to have filed, because that's part of the deal, right? The special use could say that any previous special uses associated with this property have either expired.
Yes, and if the record can specifically note Resolution 3920, which is what that resolution is.
So staff can work with that, and I would encourage staff to work with that to make sure that the title is cleaned up for the property.
With
And that we
this-
don't get another bingo hall or restaurant.
Yeah. Would the city attorney sign off on that so it can go to, for
Well,
title?
there is some legal document that can be filed that I think I
I
have to
think he
sign
has
off
the
on it,
document.
actually.
Yeah, I created just a basic.
I think I do that.
Okay.
Okay?
May I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
I don't- So, Mr. Sedell?
Yes.
So I understood you to say that your other, oh, sorry.
Better.
Your other establishments have not had any problems from midnight to early morning, is that correct?
Uniquely, what happens is everybody thinks it's the nighttime when you're going to have problems. It's the daytime. A lot of, let's say there's a homeless person, they usually can find a shelter that allows them to come in to eat and sleep on a cot, but they're forced to leave at 8 in the morning. That's when they start walking and looking for any place to camp out. So it's the daytime hours, which is really easy for us to police. We have 24-hour staff that is around the clock. We've had to do that. That's just a thing that you learn in the business to keep it protected and to keep the customer safe and keep your reputation safe. You need to have that security detail, and that's what we've installed. And we have economy of the scale because we have multiple locations.
Okay, and just, you've probably said this already, but I know you said you had cameras and things.
Yes.
So if I walk into your laundromat after midnight, how can I feel safe? What's going to happen? So
as a-
there's a door to open.
Yeah, we have multiple entrances, so how does you as a customer feel safe?
Yes.
They're extremely brightly lit. They're wide. This store will match our Waukesha store. It's a lot of open spaces. There's no hidden areas that, but like anything, no matter where you go, you have to be careful. But it being well lit, and the camera protection is always watching for, like I said, bad actors. So it's a safe place.
Okay. And I'm hearing the neighbors are concerned about whatever, problems, midnight, opening. So there haven't been any problems?
There hasn't been much police interaction unless there was a person that didn't want to leave, that wasn't there doing laundry. And so, but, for the record, we've had very little police interaction at any of the communities we're in. And
Short-term problems. long-term issues that were resolved with either the police or resolved on their own.
Thank you.
I mean, I would actually say that something that's open 24 hours is less likely to have bad actors hanging around it. It's things that are abandoned, like this building currently is. It seems much more likely that, you know, graffiti and anything else that could happen, vandalism, whether it be to that building or the neighbors' houses, if there's people not around, that's usually when bad things typically happen. You know, with their security that patrols it on a regular nightly basis throughout the night. You know, even people who intended to do something bad at that particular area would become aware of that. And if it happens once, you know, then those things change and those things up. But I think it's somewhat unfair to, you know, cast aspersions on it just because of its timing.
It's, the other nice thing about,
Would you object if the special use was to be, could be 24 hours, but could be revisited in 1 year?
Sure.
And could be analyzed?
And on that point, I mean, as Mr. Sodelo said, it's his business that he's trying to run. He's not an absentee laundromat owner. I mean, it's to his benefit that bad things don't happen in the middle of the night because then no one else is gonna come there. That gets around quickly.
well, that and the investment we have and the long-term bank loans we have to be
And
met.
Allied probably likes receiving your checks for Speed Queen machines in particular,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. The other nice fact is that shifting 60 to 70% of it's not all coin-based anymore. People can pay from their phones, so it's app-based, so the stigma of people breaking into machines to get quarters is almost non-existent because it's all app-based. We do accept quarters, but it's very limited, so there's not the drawers full of quarters anymore.
There was some other discussion about having a light on the alley.
Yeah, what we would likely,
And work with staff. I don't have an objection to having light on the alley if the folks that are adjacent to it don't. It's against the code.
well,
So-
we'd have lights on the back of the building, on that back sidewalk area. That would,
That are downward, right?
Yeah.
But just add more safety and protection along the alleyway so it's not so dark back there.
yeah, and then We Energies also has a program.
Work that out with staff, right? Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to work through all that.
Are there any other,
Can we make a
is there
motion to
anybody
close
else?
public hearing even though
So
it's
this is the last chance. We've been, Mr.
Well, right now with Calibres, we have lights shining into our backyard and our back windows. I'm hoping that that's not gonna be coming into our backyard, our house.
Special attention will, well, this was based on the, previously, you know, trying to provide the right light in the alley that doesn't,
When there's a photometric approval that has to happen, so how much light spread.
But the one thing that you mentioned about giving it 24/7 and giving it a year, what about giving it to midnight and then giving it a year to see how it goes?
well,
throughout
how would you know if anything was going to be bad between midnight and 7 if it wasn't going from midnight to 7?
Not bad between 5 and midnight, then we might think about having, you know, this discussion next year about opening it 24/7.
Right, and I'm twisting his arm right now to get a fence behind that building so we can at least have something, some sort of camaraderie, if you will, here, so that we can make this work appropriately. I understand many of you may not be directly open to that at the
Yeah.
moment, but,
So let's close the public hearing. We can't get involved in debates. I'm not trying to.
yeah, no, I got it.
Our business model requires the 24-hour status, basically. There was 2 other laundromat operators that had approached this building before us. We got in because they bowed out. One was a Chicago operator, which would have probably been a nightmare, and another one, I don't know why they backed out. So we were the third party to write on this building, and also have a laundromat as a proposed business, so it's.
Well, I'm excited because my sister used to work there
Yeah,
as at the Dutchland Dairy.
the Dutchland area.
Used to go for fish fries there.
Thank you.
Nobody cares, but it was my sister.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Wait, before you do that, is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against informational purposes concerning this item? Is there anyone that would like to speak for or against informational purposes concerning this item? Entertain a motion to close the
Wait,
public hearing.
there's someone who just,
If you can, but hurry, please.
He
'cause
actually
this has
spoke
been
already, so I don't know, that
Probably
would be
45 minutes longer than we thought it would. I mean, just.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Juan Carlos Viruet. You've seen me before. We are,
Yeah, that's supposed to put the fence in the alley.
our organization currently owns the building. And we basically took 3 steps back, being selfless, knowing and understanding that you guys wanted a tenant that could come in and develop the situation, being a gateway building. So, we kind of made a decision to pull back so that, everybody would be happy. And maybe in the near future, we'll find another location, another building that's more appropriate for us. We understood that it was a big animal for us with all the, projects and things that we needed to do. And Mr. Sedillo is correct. There was other buyers that wanted the building, but after reviewing all the projects that they needed to do, they backed out. So we are very excited that Mr. Sedillo wants to make the investment in your city and close a chapter for the last 3 years. Kind of like a nightmare for us. And I would ask and beg that you guys are lenient and have a perspective, a future perspective, that it's going to be amazing for everybody, for the city, for what you guys want as the gateway, right, that entrance. And that's really what I wanted to share with you. So, it pains us that, we need to back out from a vision of social, services that we wanted to do in that location. But, there's I guess a silver lining of all of this, and I guess we needed to do our due diligence, right? We got so motivated about the vision that we forgot to do our due diligence. And that's really what I wanted to bring to all of you, that, sometimes we lose perspective as to what the vision is, what your vision is. And I'm on your side now, on your corner. And I would like you guys to, open your eyes to see that this man wants to do something incredible in your location.
Thank you.
Because to be honest, we are at risk, as the current tenants, to see if we can get a renewal for our loan next year.
Okay.
So, we want this to happen as much as you guys want this to happen.
All right, very
Okay?
good.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against or informational purposes concerning this item? Hurry. Sorry. Please state your name and your address, please.
Sure. Colleen Hart, 4454 West Midland Drive. Again, we are not opposed to having the laundromat there, but how is this going to look for Calibres? 2 weeks ago, you guys unanimously said that they couldn't be open till 2 a.m. because we, as neighbors, objected to it. And now you're giving somebody
I won't speak to it completely, but it's a separate, distinct issue concerning their alcohol licensing, right?
But if you go online and you look at some of the pictures and some of the comments, there's a lot of litter inside that doesn't seem to be picked up. And so there is some concerns from people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know the answer, but I think they're separate and distinct.
I do too. Are you going to ask again, or can I make a motion to close the public hearing?
Anybody else want to speak for or against or informational purposes concerning this item? I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
By Alderperson Caster, second by Alderperson Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Does the council wish to take any action? One would be to approve a resolution for a special use permit for the Flash Laundromat with the conditions of extending the fence to be worked out with staff. It can be a chain link fence, probably 6 feet, whatever is consistent with what's in the neighborhood.
The adjustment of parking as necessary.
The adjustment of parking is necessary. The lighting issue, which I think has to be worked out photometrically. Yeah, I think the fence solves the access issue and the visibility issue, right?
And then we'll review 24-hour
And then with
operation.
regard to hours of operation, conditionally approve 24 hours a day to be revisited 11 months from today and to be reviewed no later than 1 year from today, right?
Yep.
It needs to be calendared, right? where we'll review whether or not those hours continue or reduced.
I'll make that motion of the resolution as well as the site and plan review, including the fence that would go along the alley property line and the property line on the southwest corner to eliminate traffic cutting through.
Yeah, wherever it's appropriate.
Where it
right?
is appropriate.
And effective, I think is the idea, right? There's two side notes as part of the motion with regard to title insurance. One is for the city to create the appropriate document to extinguish any and all terminated or other special uses associated with the property. That cleans up the title. And the third is to not require the imposition of a cross easement for the benefit of adjacent properties, which was previously a recommendation, I believe.
That is my motion.
All right, motion was made and seconded. What'd you call?
Was Andrew the Juzwicki second?
Kastner, Juzwicki, sorry.
Alderperson Juzwicki?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Okay, that's it. If everybody wants to stay you can leave if you want while we're setting stuff up. Item number 3 is a public hearing on the proposed 2025 budget. This is put together by our finance department, myself, department heads. Most of the departments are here this evening at our request. In the event that any of you have any comments or questions or concerns that you may have with regard to the budget. I'm not sure I see the police department here, but there was a police and fire commission meeting this evening with regard to some promotions. I think that's going on. I'm not sure if they're coming over or not. I started doing this last year with regard to the presentation of the 2025 budget because there seems to be sometimes there's confusion. It's sort of complicated. What I've tried to do is I've tried to break it down into a simple, easy to understand format. So here we go with the budget, okay? This is a public hearing. If anyone is...
You have a hard copy for all of us?
We have hard copies here for you. That's why Tim was going like, look at there.
Yeah, I'm like, don't we usually get one?
Yeah, you got one, sorry. So this is being broadcast. I don't think last year the slides actually made it on screen. I think it was just me talking, but, so can you click it when I say? Okay, so this is our total
Your short
budget.
one.
I'm okay. I can follow along.
Sorry, here's one. Here,
I'm good.
Take mine. I got this electronic version in front of me. So most of us, focus completely on the tax levy as part of the budget and the operating fund, and I talk about all sorts of things. But our actual budget for next year is $76,719,977. It's comprised of the general fund, which is what we do the operations of the city on, right? It's special revenue funds, enterprise funds, capital project funds, and debt service funds. And that adds up to $76 million. Next slide. The fund types, and sometimes this gets confusing. The general fund is the day-to-day operations fund. Special revenue funds are like the library, storm sewer, grants, park and recreation programs, farmers market, the AMP. All of these have special revenue funds, and those funds are committed for specific purposes. So when you see things going on at the AMP, right, and we sell beer, the beer money goes into the AMP fund, and the AMP fund pays for the entertainment, and hopefully we sell beer or sell T-shirts or sell whatever, because that is how we're trying to keep that enterprise going. Same thing holds true in many regards for the farmers market, park and rec programs. A ton of money flows through the park and rec department that's not levy-based. That pays for the programs, the 24, 25, 26,000 registrations for park and rec programming get paid for with those dollars. Those dollars stay with that programming. Enterprise funds, we have two, the sanitary sewer fund and the refuse recycling fund. They can only be used for specific purposes. We have the sanitary, storm, and refuse funds. Any money that we collect has to go in there, okay? We have capital project funds. These are now funded almost exclusively by borrowing and special assessments, okay? And then we have debt service funds. Those are the funds, and it's kind of a weird way to look at the fund because but those are for paying debt obligations, all right? Next. We have employees in the city. We have approximately a total of 214 full-time employees and 33 part-time equivalent employees. This varies from day to day to some extent if somebody retires or if there's a couple of firefighters that leave or somebody goes and takes another job. But generally speaking, we have about 214 employees and 33 part-time equivalents. The general fund, there are expenditures to get to the 32 million of the $75 million budget. The total general fund, again, is 32 million. The biggest expenditures are on the left side. The police department is about 12 million of the 32 million. The fire department is about 8.5 million. Neighborhood services, which includes DPW, engineering, inspections, and community development, is about 5 million. Most of that's in DPW. Park and Recreation is 1.4 million. Finance Department is 1.1 million. Health Department's 800,000. IT is about 800,000. City Clerk, which just did our election, their budget increases during an election year and decreases during non-election years, depending on the elections. You can see what everything else is, okay? That adds up to 32 million. If you were to look at that in a big pie chart, you would see that police, fire, DPW are most of our budget, right? 73% of the budget is police, fire, and DPW. Okay, everything else is the other quarter. Next. Department revenues. So we pay for things with taxes. We pay for things with revenues that departments create. Many departments generate revenue for the city. If not for these departments, annual revenues would be, not for these departments, annual expenditures would be actually affected, I think, right? Not revenues. We often talk about what the police and fire departments provide to the budget. Not all the revenue is the same, however, right? As some departments' revenue is meant to pay for the services that they provide. So you look at Park and Rec, they are a major contributor of revenue, but most of the things that they do is paid for with that. But right, inspection, 500,000 in budget expenditure generates revenue from permit fees that stay in the general fund, right? How do we pay for the general fund expenditures of $32,686,051? We get money from the state. The state shared revenue has been relatively flat for many years. Expenditure restraint program payment fluctuates every year. In 2023, you'll recall we got a bump in shared revenue. If we hadn't gotten that bump, we would have been laying off people the following year. The 2025 budgeted shared revenue is $2.7 million and some change. And you'll see that too, that 8% of the general fund expenditures of the 32 million is paid for with state money. So this is what the shared revenue looks like, and you can see the bump in 2023. It would be nice if every year that bump was consistent, but it's essentially leveled out now. That money will remain the same while our expenses continue to increase. Next. How the city pays for the 32 million. Okay, we talked about shared revenue. There's 29 million left after we reduce the 8% that the state gives us to fund our budget. Next. There's more state revenue. We get transportation aids, fire insurance revenues, tax exempt computer aid, video service provider aid, and personal property aid, which is kind of a new thing this year. The state's we used to levy personal property tax for things. The state has essentially eliminated that and gives us a credit of it now. So it does two things. It prevents us from levying that amount of money anymore, but in return we get more state aid. So we get another $2.7 million and change. Or is this still part of the 8%? This is another 8%, right? I want to make sure that I said that right. So another 8%. So now we're up to 16% of our general fund is paid for with other things. Other people's money, or other sources' money, I think. Next. This is the history. You'll see that there's a big bump this year. If we didn't get the aid, you see that we get this aid, but we can't levy for it anymore. So it's kind of a push. So it looks like we're getting more state aid, but we can't get the taxes that we used to get for it, okay? You'll note that that had been pretty flat for a pretty long period of time. Next. So we get state shared revenue, we get other state revenue, so there's still 27 million remaining, right? Next. Okay, so this is the stuff that we generate internally, right? We get licenses and permits, we get fines, penalties, those are mostly traffic tickets. We get public charges for service, that's mostly fire department stuff and false alarm fees. We get allocation, intergovernmental charges, which are allocations from the other enterprise funds. We get interest income, which was good this year. It was about 627,000. When interest rates were near zero, we got like 20,000 or 5,000. I mean, we got nothing. So that's been a huge contributor to our budget. If interest rates go down, however, that number will go down as well. Other financing sources, these are transfers and use of fund balance. That's 22% of the budget. Added to the other 16%, we're now up to 38%. Okay, next. There you go. So now we're down to $20 million. So every other source of revenue that we get essentially has been exhausted. We started with $32 million, now we're down to $20 million. This has to be paid for with taxes, property taxes, the general fund levy. Next. Everyone says, oh, my house just went up in value, my house just went up in value. What do you do with all that extra money? What are you going to do with all that extra money? It's important to realize that we can only levy the levy spread among all of the properties. So if one property goes up in value and another property goes down in value, that doesn't mean that the total taxes we collect have gone up or down. It means we're collecting the same amount of money. We're just collecting it differently between those two entities. As you'll recall, during all of the stuff that was going on with the reassessment, there were some rude awakenings, right? It's like, oh my God, my house went up 66%, but all the commercial property only went up 10% or declined in some cases, which resulted in a burden, a shift of the levy to families, to single-family homes and those kinds of things. We remember all that, right? Any increase to the amount of money that we levy is governed by a state formula, the levy limit formula, I think we like to refer to. It's based on net new construction. The current value of the city is what, Tim? You gave me the number today, 4.8 billion. So as of today, the total equalized value of the city is $4.8 billion. 1% of $4.8 billion is how much, Andrew? It's a lot.
Yeah.
So, all right. That was a test. So every year as the values of the property go up, $4.8 billion, in order for us to make ends meet, we need to get about an 8% increase in the levy that we got, which is a 20 million. So if you tried to figure out how much 4.8 billion needs to go up to get that 8%, that's a lot, right? And it's not been doing that, right? Tim probably knows what that number is. Next slide. The formula, here it is. Look at that. The prior actual levy last year, not including tax rent plus personal property aid, less prior is general obligation debt, less all this other stuff. I don't want to go through all these numbers again, but if you go through and you see how this formula works, at the end of the day, the non-debt service levy increase, we can raise taxes $248,402. Sort of, because now we get a credit on, there's a credit on the personal property tax thing, which right, next. The levy limit allows us to increase our taxes by 248,000 or 1%, right? We need to probably increase our taxes by about 6 to 8% to keep even, unless we get more interest income, more ambulance revenue, more traffic tickets, more something, or more state aids, which haven't been increasing other than the bump, right? There's another calculation that the state uses called the expenditure restraint program, and it's something that we always have to keep track of in the budget every single year. This allows us the ability to increase our expenditures in the general fund, okay? If we wanted to do something like somebody gave us, the state gave us $500,000 of extra money or something, and we wanted to spend it on something new and different. Not that we would do that, but if we wanted to, you have to have the breathing space through the expenditure restraint program. It tells you how much you can actually increase your expenditures based on cost of living and or whatever all that stuff is, right? You would think that somehow that number would be tied to the levy limits. The ERP calculation this year would allow us to increase expenditures by $1.3 million or 3.8% over the 2024 budget. Okay? And that's about right. That's about how much money we need based on that formula. How much can we increase the budget? It's the line above it, 248,000, which means that the 1.3 million, which is about what we need, and the 2.4 and the 248, which is what we can get, there's about $1 million hole there, right?
Over.
Right? Well, we'll just shoot generalities here, right? It's about $1 million, right? I mean, let's not get too specific. So if we look at our budget, the 2025 budget, expenditures are $976,000 greater than the 2024 budgeted expenditures. See that? The difference between $976,000 and the levy limit increase is covered by increases in other revenues, all those other revenues that we talked about. That increase can't be made up with taxes. Next. So let's talk about expenditures again, right? Public safety is, I wish that, what's the total, I don't know what the total is there, but it's 32, this is the $32. So the $32 that we were talking about before, right? 32 million, right? The significant portion of this is public safety. The significant types of revenues to pay for that are taxes, and you can, this is basically breaking down all the stuff that we just went through. It's supposed to be red is for police and green is for parks and happiness. Next, thank you. Parks is the biggest. No, it's not. So this is what we're trying to get at here. The levy pays for roughly 62% of the entire general fund budget. You can see how everything else is broken down. Next. In this year's budget, this is how it's being paid for. Okay, can you guys see all this stuff, or do I have to read them all off?
No.
You can read.
I can read? All right. What you'll note is that what's important here is that there's about $13 million worth of projects that need to be done. About $4.5 million of that is long-term debt. Other funding and funding to be determined, right? So when I say, you know, well, I want to try to get a skateboard park, or I want to kind of do this, or we want to put a path somewhere, and we're waiting for a grant, if those things don't materialize, then the corresponding park improvements that you see there and the funding to be determined don't happen. So the budget always has this in it, right? It had the power line trail for forever. There was $300,000 floating in the budget, and you know that's how much it cost back then, and And if we can get that darn grant from the state as a funding source, which balanced out in the budget, then we'll put that power line trail in, right? It wasn't until we actually got that money, but we try to create placeholders in the budget in the event that the money becomes available, that we can try to spend it. Next. This is the capital equipment request this year. There's $1.7 million of capital equipment. This is the first year that we will have to borrow for all of our capital equipment needs. The last 2 years, you'll recall, we used ARPA dollars. Years prior to that, we borrowed for very big things, usually fire trucks. But for the most part, we tried to use cash. We tried to do long-term schedules. This is how much money we should save every year. We should put it away, so when we need to buy these things, you know, we adjust the schedules and all that stuff, so when we need to buy them, we generally have the cash on hand. That is all completely gone. Because we can't levy enough money to pay for it. But they will let us, the state law will let us, you know, these levy limits and all the stuff that we went through before, they will let us go into debt and borrow money to buy things that we could probably more cost effectively pay for with cash if we could just levy for it at the time. In the old days, up until this year, it required bonding to do these things. There's this new fancy financial instrument called a promissory note, general obligation promissory note, that I'm still learning about, that I think we're all still learning about, which seems to be the new funding source for these types of purchases. They don't have the restrictions that bonding had. Bonds had to be extremely detailed as to what you were going to spend it on. You couldn't borrow money for a park and then, you know, buy a police car with it. Now you can borrow money for a police car, and if you don't want to buy the police car, it sounds like you can buy a fire truck or a park or something. Okay, next. So while the capital equipment request that's being funded in this year's budget is $1.7 million, the requests that came in initially were well in excess of that. And all the department heads worked vigorously and said to us, no, this is really what we need. We can get by another year, we can get whatever, right? Which all department heads have been doing for quite a while now. Next. Talking property taxes, each and every one of us goes through this thing. Well, I pay $10,000 a year, $6,000 a year in property taxes made out to the city of Greenfield, right? I deserve this, or I whatever, right?
Or live in Milwaukee and demand things.
Huh?
Nothing.
Yeah, no, yeah, don't be facetious. So this is your tax bill, and that's what the chart looks like in the Greenfield School District. They vary by school district. Is the next one a percentages? So the green part there, or the blue part, excuse me, no, the green part is because it's the city of Greenfield. And that we had it green in the pie chart because it's the city of Greenfield.
We get all that money.
We get all that money. So of the money, you can see that we get about a third of it. 35%, 38%. Next one.
School district has surpassed us again.
Hmm?
The school districts have surpassed us again.
They have surpassed us again in Whitnall next year, not this year, but the following year with the new referendum will surpass what is on here now, I think. But you can see
I think that
where
number's
we're at.
actually wrong.
It's roughly a third, right? 35% of the $6,000 or $10,000 that you pay in property tax actually goes to the city to do all the things that we previously described. Next. Yeah, we don't get to keep it all, right? So this shows exactly what the city portion of every property tax dollar is. It's 35 cents out of every dollar that you send stays here. It's all estimated. Tim wants to make sure that we all recognize that this is estimated. There's mathematical precision that will follow shortly within a week or two, but
Estimated
Tim
should have been in
assures me that
capital
it's going to be
letters.
very, very close to this. Right, next. Tax rates, right? Assessments, equalized values, all those things have an impact on the rate. We are currently about 10% out of whack again. So I got all the numbers from the assessor, and I want to thank Les and Tim and Paula for getting me all those all that information. But generally speaking, most commercial properties are not, huh? Is it on the next slide? You put it on there for me? You did. Good job. Next one, next one. So these are the levels of assessment, right? We were doing great until like 2019, 2021, 20, right? Real estate bubbles, all those things. 2023, we reassessed. We got back up to near 100% of equalized value. We're already down roughly 9 to 10% this year. Most of that, so it's weighted among all of the real estate classes. Single-family homes, condominiums, and apartments continue to rise in value. Car dealerships rose in value for some reason, but they're a very small portion of the total tax base. Commercial, retail, medical office uses don't seem to be accelerating. So home prices, apartment prices, and condo prices are still going up. The bubble, if it is a bubble, the bubble continues to expand. Next.
What does the state require us to stay within?
Well, you can go back to the last slide. So the state starts getting really edgy when you're around 85%, 80%, 80. They get really edgy and you start getting letters below 80. Once you hit 70s, they're really not happy, and then you get the letter and it says you better do it. That's a summary, anecdotally. So 90% is probably okay. Getting into the 80s is starting to get worrisome. Getting underneath 80 is really worrisome. There was talk about, well, we should just reassess every year so we don't surprise everybody. It costs a lot of money to reassess. You'll recall that it took us years of saving to reassess to afford it. Then we talked about kind of doing the logarithmic approach where they don't really look at everything. They just kind of run it through their AI and they kind of go, well, that's so many square feet and it's this and it's that. And they kind of, it's probably the wave of the future to do things that way. But that's awfully expensive too. The danger is reassessing during a bubble is a bad thing. And I've been sort of saying that since 2019, but the bubble doesn't seem to be going away. So this is going to be an issue that we're going to have to face in a year or two. If we were to reassess this year to bring it up to 100% equalized value, and we were to spend $250,000 to do that, that would essentially result in substantial property tax increases, probably for single-family homes and condo owners and apartment owners. The burden of the property tax would continue to shift to them like it has been since 2019. Next. Do you have any questions? So typically we go through this at the Finance Committee and we present it and we have questions and everyone looks through their budget, and some years there are lots of questions with department heads. This year I invited all of the department heads to be here, the ones that could be here, if any of you had any questions. There are some numbers that I guess that you should be aware of. So budgets are budgets, right? I went to the store with $20 in my pocket and I had that $5 bill folded up in my wallet just in case, right? That's kind of like the reserves. But I found this really nice pair of pants for $21, right? I'm not suggesting that a city budget is like going to the shopping mall and buying a pair of jeans that's $1 more than you budgeted. But what I'm saying is it's not a precise science.
You might have got a speeding ticket on the way to the shopping center.
Which required me to, yeah, I mean, all that. And then I lost my wallet, which is which was an enterprise fund. But some of the things to pay attention to in this budget is there's a salary increase, 3% for all employees effective the first of the year. This does not include police and firefighter unions. We're going through collective bargaining negotiations as we speak. The health insurance increase in the budget is 2%, and I kind of went through this with regard to the health insurance contract that we received this year. Our health insurance actually went down this year, right? But it's a 2-year commitment, but it's going to go up in 2026 by 11.9 or 12.6%. 11.9% is the maximum, I think, or is it 12.9? I forgot. 11.9. Which is a problem because next year I can't say, oh, well, we won't charge, we'll cut it this year by, whatever. And then next year I can't raise it by 12% to make up for it. So this budget has a 2% increase built in to preserve the dollars that will probably ultimately flow into reserves next year to be drawn from to pay for a substantially higher health insurance increase in 2026 that we can expect to have coming. Again, the allowable levy limit increase is $248,000. Due to Act 12, which is the personal property taxes, the city will receive an additional shared revenue of $298,000, which means that we could only increase by $186,000. But this is all Tim's stuff, Tim Slawinski, and if you want to go through and spend the hours, I would encourage you to spend 15 minutes or half an hour or 2 hours with him to go through how he calculates that. You'll be fascinated by the formulas that are in a spreadsheet that show all the what-ifs. But we can't raise, in essence, we can't raise enough levy to pay for our increasing expenditures every year without finding additional sources of revenue. The tax rate. The city portion of the tax rate is $671. This is with the TIDs taken out versus $662 last year. So it's about 9 cents. It's expected based on projections, which aren't permanent yet, because we still don't know all the numbers, right, Tim? It's about a 30 to 40 cent total overall tax bill increase going into next year per thousand. But our portion of that is about $6.71. On a $300,000 house, that's about $27. There's some other things that were done in the budget. You'll see that we've increased the use of reserves, and we talked about this. I don't know if you all were there at the Finance Committee meeting when we talked about this. Gets back to the expenditure restraint program, making sure that we continue to have the ability to raise expenditures in the event that the revenue exists that we can raise expenditures. So you'll see more of fund balance shifting into the operating budget, but it's essentially going to things like contingency and however he did it, right? That's to artificially increase the expenditures, to preserve the expenditures so that we have them in the future. That doesn't mean that we're actually spending that money. Now, if we had a tornado or hurricane or something, we might spend that money. But generally speaking, as far as the budget goes, we've continued to use reserves every year kind of as a ballast to navigate through all of the things that we have to navigate through. It's not something that doesn't mean that we're flush with cash or that we're just spending all the money that's in our piggy bank. We are kept an eye on with regard to all this stuff when we get our Moody's bond conference calls every year whenever we go to borrow, and I'm not sure what we're going to do with promissory notes, right? But Moody's is okay with it, generally, and I'm not speaking for Moody's, but generally okay with, okay, you're taking money from reserves, but you're not spending it, or you're not spending as much, or you're using it as that ballast to keep the boat level as you're going across kind of a wavy ocean. So that's that. Capital equipment, I think I went through all that. About $1.6 million of that is going to be through promissory notes. There's no ARPA dollars available, and 60% is funded by the sanitary sewer fund. Okay? There are no levy, the important part is this is the first year that no levy dollars are really part of capital equipment. Other communities, I think Greendale, 5 or 6 years ago, they stopped levying for capital equipment and capital improvements. We held out for a long time. A lot of that was the reaction to Act 10 and being able to keep costs in line at that time, but it's caught up to us. I will say this again, that, and we've talked about this internally, within 2 years, again, so we can continue to navigate the water, we can continue to be lucky with interest rate income, we can continue to be appreciative for ambulance revenue, we can be appreciative that our streets are safer because there are more tickets there's more enforcement going on out there. But we can't continue to do that every year. Things like in the fire department, you start burning out your people with too many calls. With the police department, there's not enough time with some of the other stuff that's going on to engage in you know, writing tickets, right? They don't have the time. Interest rates based on the presidential election, and who knows what the heck's going to happen, right? If interest rates go down substantially, that's going to adversely impact this budget significantly, because about $600,000 of this budget is being paid for with interest that hadn't been there 3 or 4 years ago. And we can't raise taxes to cover it. There's a lot of law and order talk going on, and everybody's like, well, we should hire more police officers and we should hire more firefighters. I think everybody wants to do that, right? We went through the average numbers recently for police officers, $130,000 a year with all in, right? Firefighters ain't much different. I can't even raise taxes enough in 1 year to cover one of them, to hire one new firefighter. And if you look at how much of the budget goes to police, fire, and DPW, I don't have much else, we don't have much else to keep everything else going, right? There is only one new position in this budget. It's for a building and facilities manager that would work in DNS and that would coordinate all of the facilities. This position is important because currently I have fire command staff pricing out heating and air conditioning units and wondering how they're going to fix the boiler. Those folks in the blue there are really high overhead. They don't need to be figuring out what kind of heating and air conditioning system they need. I currently have command staff in the police department working with roofing contractors, trying to figure out what's wrong with their roofs, what's wrong with their leaking, what's wrong with what's wrong with the garage door. I don't need those folks wasting any of their precious and expensive time trying to figure out why the garage door doesn't work. We've got problems with this building. It's straightened out. I don't know, maybe no, there it is. See the bottom there? That wall is, when it gets humid in here or it gets dry in here, that wall buckles and Mayor Besson is looking straight up at the ceiling. We need people to pay attention to those kinds of things. We have a library that had roofing issues and had other, and I'm not going to get into all that stuff. We have a library director that needs to be working on children's programs and making sure all that stuff's working, not trying to figure out how to paint the lunchroom or the basement or the roof.
That's not a complete new person, is it?
It's a new position which will have to be
Reallocate.
We're going to have to do some changes with all of this. It's not going to happen immediately. There's a lot of coordination, but I need the flexibility to do it.
It's a full-time position?
It's a full-time position in the Department of Neighborhood Services. We spent, we had a meeting, was that 8 months ago, 9 months ago? In the conference room where every single department head was there. And every single department head at that meeting had one thing, it's like, basically, we need to do our jobs and we need to keep an eye on this stuff and somebody needs to keep track of it. We don't want to do it. We can't do it, or we can't do it well. I mean, as much as I like our fire command staff and our police command staff, they're not in a position to know, and they're not in a position to keep an eye on it. And we don't need them learning about that stuff, unless when they retire, they want to be heating and air conditioning specialists. You know what I'm saying? Jeff, you would agree that this is one of the most important positions that you've been asking for about 6 years?
Yes, and it is not only coming from me, but it's also coming from the other department heads. It's really important.
So there has to be that level of coordination. That is the only position. We have to start thinking about how our facilities are managed and how and eliminating redundancies and doing all sorts of things. The day can't continue where, well, you know, this is my budget and this is my heating, and while their heating doesn't work, we have to start thinking as a city cohesively. We can't have 3 or 4 different heating and air conditioning contractors, and this department likes this guy and this department likes that guy, right? We can't have that. I know Julie spent creating a list with me of who do we contact in an emergency if there's a plumbing problem at City Hall, or at the fire department, or the police department, or whatever. And every department kind of had their own lists, and some didn't have lists, and some would just call Randy, who had a list, but the list was only for this and was, right? We have to get all that figured out. Because it's going to be a source of savings, ultimately. This isn't being done to spend more money. This is being done to save money, and the position is expected to generate some return on investment. Okay, I just want to be clear. Okay, so with all of that, I'm asking you, is anybody registered to speak at the public hearing? There's a lot of department heads. That's a lot of overhead right there, but it's all exempt. So that's good.
At least we had an entertaining evening, though.
We did have an entertainment. Everybody knows what's going to happen with the laundromat in Forest Home now, and the former Dutchland Dairy. Wasn't that great? Luke did a fantastic job, right?
We're on
First
bated
time,
breath
Luke?
for that
Seriously?
one.
That's hard, right? Getting up in front of people and just rambling on, don't you, right? It is. It makes you nervous.
Moving
Should see
along.
Randy up here, man. He's just.
I got kids I gotta pick up.
All right, that's fine. So I'd entertain a motion. Does anybody else want to speak for or against, or for informational purposes concerning the public hearing? Does anybody have any questions of anybody? Thank you all for coming tonight. I apologize for making you come tonight. I think this is going to be a trend. A couple of the elder persons, while you're all here, have expressed the desire to get to know you better and to know what you do during the year. Not that they don't know what you're doing during the year, but at the finance committee level, probably, or some other level, or maybe it's
Didn't
at
the
this.
council president and mayor offer to buy drinks for us all?
The council president said that if you can get every department head to kind of give a statistical summary of what they do every year, and that he would, was it the Harbor House?
Yeah, I agree with lunch.
No, I think it was the Harbor House. He would treat your entire department to dinner at the Harbor House.
Right.
You did say that.
I did.
Wait,
I did say that.
did you mean it?
No.
I will second
No,
that.
he didn't mean it. Okay, all right, sorry. I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing is the motion.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Kastner, second by Alderperson Akers. All call,
Alderperson
or all
Juswick.
in favor, actually, to close the public hearing.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm just a witness to that. I didn't agree to anything.
Do we have a
I don't know
resolution
whether-
we need to
trying to find
read
my
or
resolution.
approve, or?
Oh, I don't have a resolution.
Got the
Saw
resolution. Sorry, I didn't. Is it in the pack?
No, he has only one. Is it in the pack? I
didn't
didn't open
see a
my
pack.
pack either.
I
Is
didn't
it in
see
the
it in the pack.
So, if you guys can, this is the,
Is that the right number?
This is the right number. This is the resolution that contains all of the initial language like they do every year, whereas a public hearing on the annual budget was held on November 6, 2024, after due proper notice, and said hearing had been given in accordance with the provisions of section 65.90 with stats, and whereas it is necessary to levy a property tax in the amount of $28,994,460, exclusive of the TIF levy, to fund the expenses of the City of Greenfield contained in the 2025 annual budget. It is now therefore resolved by the Common Council of the City of Greenfield that the 2025 annual budget, a summary of which is attached here to and made part of, you've got that, that the property tax is hereby levied in the amount of $28,994,460, exclusive of the TIF levy on all taxable property within the City of Greenfield, as returned by the assessor in the year 2024 for the purposes as set forth in the budget. I'd entertain a motion to pass that.
Make that motion.
By Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Bailey. Would you please call?
Alderperson Juzwicki.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
I'd entertain a motion to reconsider.
Motion to reconsider.
By Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to reaffirm.
Motion to reaffirm by Alderperson Kastner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Bailey. Would you please call on the reaffirm?
Alderperson Juzwicki.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. We have a budget.
Can I just ask, do we have an estimate for the mill rate?
Yeah, I think I said it.
It was
That's
7
it.
something, wasn't it?
20. 721 is the city portion, but the total mill rate is 2034.
How much?
$20.52 for Greenfield.
Again, all estimates.
Yeah, don't
I
take them,
said-
don't take them until that
I
spreadsheet is.
said estimate.
Don't,
Estimate.
it's between 2030 and
I was
2050.
going to say, we don't know the other ones.
Total.
concrete.
Yeah.
We don't-
Ours is probably okay.
Okay, so we have a budget, this is good. Old business, I don't have any members for the Civil Service Commission, this is. K2, approve applications for operator licenses, or K1, excuse me, entertain a motion to approve those licenses.
Motion to approve the licenses 2 and 3.
Second by Alderperson Bailey, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Items 2 is approve a temporary Class B retailer's license from our Father's Lutheran Church for a fundraiser on November 9th. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to,
Second.
By Kastner, second by Akers.
Yes.
All in, right, all in favor?
aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And finally is approve an application for Class B retailer license from Harley's Owners Group to sell at the annual chili cook-off to benefit firefighter charities on November 16th, my birthday.
That's
Should be
why
a
they're having
holiday.
it?
They're
Just because of your birthday?
Yep.
That's nice of them. Motion to approve.
By Kastner, second by Druswicki, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Items for future agenda? None at this point.
Motion to adjourn.
By
Second.
Third.
Druswicki at 9:04, second by Akers? was it?
Whoever, we'll
Or
take it.
Kastner? Who was it?
I'll take it.
Akers, all in favor?
Aye.